Let's jump straight into this because today we're looking at an absolute earthquake in India's education system. We are breaking down the 2026 NEET disaster. And honestly, the anatomy of this scandal goes so much deeper than anyone initially thought. On May 3rd, 2026, what was supposed to be the ultimate defining day for aspiring medical students turned into an unprecedented nightmare.
And we have to start with the real devastating human cost here. 22 lakh. That is 22 lakh dedicated students who sat for this exam. Most of these kids had been grinding for over 2 years. Families sacrificed everything they had for this one single day. And in a flash, all those dreams were just shattered because the integrity of the entire system collapsed.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, the 2026 NEET disaster, then the anatomy of the leak, the ultimate inside job, the warning signs that were ignored, the massive political fallout, and finally, what actually happens next. Section 1, the 2026 NEET disaster and the immediate fallout. Right after that May 3rd exam, investigators in Rajasthan stumbled onto something that was, frankly, jaw-dropping. What they found wasn't just a rumor. It was hard, physical evidence circulating before the exam even started.
It was so undeniable that by May 12th, the National Testing Agency, the NTA, had to step up and make an unprecedented move. They issued this official press release, completely canceling the entire nationwide May 3rd exam. They basically admitted the whole process was too compromised to stand.
And here is exactly why they had to pull the plug. 140. Investigators found this handwritten guest paper with over 300 questions. Out of those, a staggering 140 questions perfectly matched the real exam. We're talking carbon copy, exact matches in chemistry and biology. This was no lucky guess, guys. This was the actual paper. Which brings us to Section 2, Anatomy of the Leak. How does a highly sensitive, secure document just make its way across the entire country? Well, it spread like wildfire through an incredibly intricate interstate syndicate. Just look at this timeline. In late April, NTI insiders leak the papers down in Pune. By May 1st, just days before the exam, the paper travels all the way to Sikar, Rajasthan, literally forwarded over WhatsApp. On the night of May 2nd, middlemen are frantically selling the paper overnight. And then, May 3rd, 22 lakh students sit down to take an exam that is already rigged.
The route it took is honestly crazy. Step 1, it starts with the paper setters in Pune. Step 2, it moves to middlemen in Nashik, like medical admissions consultants. Step 3, they pass it to contacts up in Haryana. And finally, Step 4, it hits the massive coaching networks in Sikar, Rajasthan, where it's printed out and handed to students.
And speaking of the students getting these papers, what was the going rate for a guaranteed medical seat? 30 to 50 lakh rupees. Let that sink in. While honest kids are burning the midnight oil studying, others are dropping up to 50 lakh to just buy the leaked material. It is a brutal, devastating contrast. But how did the paper get out in the first place? Section 3, the ultimate inside job. And honestly, this is the most disturbing part of our whole explainer today. This leak didn't come from some sophisticated hacker or a breached transport truck. The call was coming from inside the house. The CBI arrested 2 key individuals who weren't just rogue staff, they were actually members of the NTA's own paper-setting panel. P.V. Kulkarni, a chemistry lecturer, and Manisha Mandhare, an expert botany teacher. According to the CBI, they were holding special coaching classes right at their homes in Pune in late April, actively dictating the exact questions and answers to students who had paid them lakhs. It's just wild. Moving to Section 4, ignoring the warning signs. Because the real tragedy here is that the systemic vulnerabilities allowing this to happen were totally hidden in plain sight. Just compare this to the last massive scandal. NEET 2024 was awful, right? You had external paper leaks, those highly controversial arbitrary grace marks. But NEET 2026, it's fundamentally worse. This isn't an external breach. This is a direct internal leak by the very experts the NTA hired to create the exam. And the most frustrating part, they had a playbook to fix this. After 2024, the Radhakrishnan Committee handed over 101 specific reforms. And look what happened to them. Encrypted digital delivery to stop physical leaks? Ignored. Multi-session computer testing? Ignored. 1,000 secure government testing centers? Ignored. And the big one, replacing temporary contractual staff? Yet the NTA still relied heavily on temporary staff, even for setting the papers. They practically left the front door wide open. So, naturally, we arrive at Section 5, Protests and Political Fallout. When you completely shatter the dreams of 22 lakh young citizens, an explosion of outrage is totally inevitable. The fallout was swift, and it was chaotic. We saw massive student protests led by the NSUI right in the streets of Delhi, kids holding up placards saying, "Doctor degree on sale." Supreme Court petitions were filed almost immediately. What we're seeing is a complete, widespread, systemic distrust. The youth of this country simply do not believe the current system is fair anymore.
And not profound distrust goes all the way up to state leadership. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin actually wrote to the Prime Minister explicitly demanding that his state be completely exempted from NEET for the 2026-27 academic year. His proposal is to let state governments admit students based strictly on their 12th grade marks. He argues that centralized testing has totally failed to protect merit and instead just favors those who can afford commercial coaching, or in this case, leaked papers.
All right, so Section 6. What happens next? Where do we actually go from here, especially for those 22 lakh students currently stuck in absolute limbo? Well, here are the hard facts you need to know. The government has officially scheduled a Re-NEET examination for June 21st, 2026. The NTA tweaked the timings a bit, giving everyone an extra 15 minutes, so it's going to run from 2 p.m. to 5:15 p.m. Also, there are no extra fees for this, and the fees you already paid for that canceled May 3rd exam, those are going to be fully refunded.
But to wrap up this explainer, we really have to look past the immediate re-exam and ask a much, much bigger question. When the very people hired to set the paper are the ones leaking it, cosmetic fixes just aren't going to cut it. Beyond putting GPS trackers on trucks or installing 5G signal jammers, does the entire NEET system need to be fundamentally reformed from the ground up? Or, as some are demanding, should it just be completely scrapped? It is the million-dollar question India has to answer right now. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and as always, keep questioning the systems around you.